Hello and welcome to my channel In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne and today we are going to talk about all of the current authors whose backlists I need to read. I don't know if you can hear it, but my family is downstairs with the door closed but watching something on TV, and I feel like it's really loud, so I don't know if you can hear that. Apologies. Today I want to talk about the authors whose backlists I really want to read. A week or two ago I shared a video with all of the classic authors that I want to read, all of their work. Now of course each of those authors has a closed catalog because they have finished their life's work, they have gone on to their reward, and there is no more. But contemporary authors are presumably still writing or have the possibility of still writing, so theirs is collection is continuing to grow. However, there are some authors whose backlists I have not read because I did not discover them from the beginning, or because I haven't had time to keep up with everything that they write. So I have a few authors today that I want to talk about. Most of them are Christian authors with one exception. I haven't really found any current general market authors that I really feel like I want to read everything they've written. That may change because for a long time I just didn't read hardly any current secular fiction because so much of it I gave up on it because there was so much content in it, most of the things that I picked up. But a few years back, I started to do, I don't know, I guess the online world grew, and with the advent of Goodreads and now BookTube, you can get recommendations from people that you trust, and so it's easier to find out before you pick up a book if, you're going to appreciate it or not to a greater extent, or if there's going to be content or whatever, because there's just more people talking about it in a space where you can easily access their reviews and their information and their thoughts about it. Whereas, back in the day, this old lady, she'd go to the library or to the bookstore and all she could go on was the blurb in the back, flipping through a little bit, didn't know, or just a recommendation from a friend. But you don't have very many friends who read in real life. It's kind of hard. So anyway, that was a really long path to getting to the point, which is to say, I don't have many current secular fiction authors or even literary fiction authors who are still writing today that I'm like, oh yes, so good, I want to read all of their work. One notable exception, and maybe a couple possible other exceptions that I could add to the list. And I'm hoping, because this year I actually made myself a list of authors, general market authors that I want to try. Most of them are like literary fiction authors. And I'm hoping that one or two or more of them will strike a chord with me, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I want to read all of their work. So we'll see. But for now, this is my little short list. And let me take a sip of my tea today because these days that I have been at home, I'm drinking so much coffee. So try to break it up a little bit with, a little hot chocolate, little tea. Because I don't know about you, but when it's cold outside, I have to drink something hot. I mean, I've also drunk, like, I have some kombucha here, and I've drunk water, obviously. I just really like to have something hot at all times when it's really cold outside. So I have actually been updating my reading journal this week. That's one of the fun things I've been doing because I didn't quite finish it. I still have not quite finished, but in addition to my pages with the author backlist that I want to read, I added a page of books I want to reread, which I guess I should make a separate video out of that, and I've already done one this year. And then I made a page with a 2024 bracket, And then I made a spread with all of the BookTube readathons. I plan to participate in 1 or 2 a month, depending on what is going on in the BookTube world. In January, I didn't do much except for the, in addition to my regular old, reading challenges that I have. The only other one that I did was the Read in the New Year with Oshina and Holly. So, the author backlist pages, though, is the main thing that I have been working on. And I have a few of those to share with you today. First of all is Laura Frantz. And I actually have more of hers left to read than I thought I did. I thought I had read almost all of hers, but sadly, I have quite a list, including the one she wrote last year, or was published last year, which I still haven't gotten to yet, The Rose and the Thistle. But then some of these are older ones that I have not read yet. One is The Frontiersman's Daughter. Another is Love's Reckoning, Tidewater Bride, Love's Awakening, Love's Fortune, and A Moonbow Night. And I really think, except for The Rose and the Thistle, all of those are older ones. So those must have been written before I discovered her. I do have one that I picked up, I don't know, maybe at a library book sale or something, A Moonbow Night, which, so I can read this. I could definitely get to this year for sure. But first I have to read The Rose and the Thistle, and I have her current one that I want to read, The Seamstress of Acadie. So I love Laura Frantz because historical fiction is my favorite genre, and she excels at it. She pretty much sticks to like the early colonial era in America, but she also touches on the people who came to America at the time came from other countries. So, she touches on other European countries in their history sometimes, but mostly it's in some area of early colonial America. And she usually picks out these, lesser known aspects of history, like these, small details of things. And they're so thoroughly researched and just beautifully told. I always get really involved in the characters' lives and am really drawn into the story. And I really just enjoy her writing thoroughly. Last year, the one that I read, I did read a book by her, not her current book, but I read A Bound Heart by her, and it was very good. That one started in Scotland and then came to the Caribbean and also colonial Virginia. So Laura Frantz is one author that I definitely want to read everything she wrote. Another is Jaime Jo Wright, which that woman, she just writes too fast. I cannot keep up with her. So I read her debut novel the year that she wrote it, but she just writes too fast for me and I can't keep up. And I'm not like the kind of, I don't know, I guess her writing is historic suspense. It's historic fiction, usually a dual timeline, which I like. But there's always a mystery and there's always an element of suspense. It's always a little bit on the spooky side. And that's not my go-to genre, but she does it so well, and the stories are so enjoyable, and the historic element really pulls me in. So I'm sorry, I'm also competing with the dishwasher for noise. I mean, this is not a good time for filming, guys. Like, it's dark outside, TV's going, dishwasher's going, but a booktuber's got to do what a booktuber's got to do. Otherwise, I'm not gonna have time in my life to make this video, so apologies. Anyway, Jaime Jo Wright. I have not been able to keep up with her, and so I think she writes 2 a year. Is that right? So lots to catch up on her, and that is not going to happen this year, but I will try to read a couple by her this year. First off is The Vanishing at Castle Moreau. I have not read. The Lost Boys of Barlow Theater, which came out late last year, and everybody was really excited about it. And what I heard people talking about, the storyline and everything, sounds like I would really enjoy it. I'm very intrigued by it, but just haven't read it yet. Then The Souls of Lost Lake. I would like to read The Premonition at Wither's Farm. It's another one that sounds really interesting to me in particular. The Haunting at Bonaventure Circus. I mean, I'm actually not really into circus stories, honestly. I think it was Christy Cameron wrote one. Was it her who wrote The Ringmaster's Wife that I really actually liked a lot? But generally circus stories, I don't know, but that's on my list. And On the Cliffs of Foxglove Manor, which I have a couple of these. I think that one in Premonition at Withers Farm, I have on my Kindle, so I can read those. I have access to them. And I think probably I can get them on Hoopla. So I have them available to me. I just need to actually read them. Then the next one I have is Nicole Deese, who I did only discover a couple years ago when I read, so All That Really Matters, I think is what it's called. There's like makeup on the cover. And that one was so good. Because contemporary fiction, and I feel like hers would be contemporary women's fiction or romance. There is a romance in them, but it's not really about the romance so much. I'm going to say women's fiction would be the category there. But anyway, not my favorite genre. And so I usually, when I read them, I tend to be like, okay, that's a 3, that's a 4. But I was blown away by the depth and the story in All That Really Matters. It was so good. And thoroughly enjoyed it. I was like, okay, I really want to read some more by her. And guess what? I haven't since then. I don't know why. And she's written several books since that time. And also, she has some books she wrote before then that I would like to read also. So thankfully not. I think there was only 1 or 2 series that she wrote before that book. So I don't have a lot to catch up on. But, it's still a whole list. So, All That It Takes, which I believe is the second one in the All That Really Matters series. And then Before I Called You Mine, which, is that a standalone? I couldn't tell if it was part of a series or a standalone. I've seen the cover, and I know generally, I think it's about like a fostering situation or an adopting situation. And it sounds really good, but I wasn't sure if that was part of a series or a standalone. And then we have The Words We Lost, and then the second one in that series is coming out this year, I believe. So I want to read that one, so then I can read the next one. Then an older one is The Promise of Rain. And then there's a series, a trilogy, All for Anna, All She Wanted, and All Who Dream. So those are all on my list. Now this is technically not Backlist because it's not out yet, The Roads We Follow. But I put it on here because it will come out this year, and so I will want to read it. And I may not get to many of these this year. So I want this list to last until I finish it. So I went ahead and put the one that's being published this year because just to make sure that I eventually get to it. So that is Nicole Deese. And then the next one I have, and thankfully I have read a lot of hers, and that is Francine Rivers. The ones that I haven't read, it's mostly because at the outset the storyline doesn't appeal to me, but I know that her writing is so good that when I'm reading it, I will enjoy it. The other thing is that I know from experience that Francine Rivers is an author that she takes the time to set up her story, so you may not always love it like in the first even 20%. And her pace is a little bit slower than some other authors. So she really takes her time to really craft the story well. So I know that from experience. So I know that her stories are a bit of a time investment, and that it's not going to be a quick, like, oh, I love this from the start, pull me in, suck me in, here we go for the ride, kind of thing. It's a little bit more of a long haul kind of thing. So I have put some of them off for that reason, but I just keep putting it off. And even though I know they're going to be really good and I would love to read them, and when I read them and we're like, oh, that was good, I just haven't. So I know I will love it when I read it, but I just need to. That's all there is to it. Anyway, the ones I have not read by Francine Rivers are The Atonement Child, which I have a feeling that one is going to make me cry. Probably they all would make me cry, but I feel like that one especially. Her Mother's Hope and Her Daughter's Dream, which is like a duology, I think. And then Bridge to Haven and The Lady's Mind, which is her most recent one. And I have not read. And I really want to, just haven't. So that is Francine Rivers. As I am talking about this, there is another author that I would love to read her entire backlist, and I think I have read almost all of it, and that would be Susie Finkbeiner. Because I read her Dust Bowl series, and I've read All Manner of Things, and I have read her most recent one, The All-American, The Nature of Small Birds, I think, and The Stories We Tell. So I have read all of those, and off the top of my head, I can't think of any others that she has written. So I may have actually read all of hers. Another one would be Julie Klassen. But again, I think that I have read everything except for her latest one in her series that she has written. There may be one random book in her backlist that I have not read. I feel like maybe there's one floating out there, but I'm pretty sure I've read everything by Julie Klassen. I have read everything that Amanda Dykes and Joanna Deese have written up until this point, except for Amanda Dykes. I think she has one novella, like a Christmas novella, that I have not read. She has a couple, but one of them I've not read yet. But all of her full-length novels I've definitely read, and Joanna Davis and Politano, all of hers I have read. All of Siri Mitchell's historical fiction I have read. I don't know, I just haven't been interested in her. I think she has some suspense and some contemporary fiction that haven't interested me, but I really, 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 really have loved her historical fiction and read everything she wrote in that genre. So those are a lot of Christian authors that I have either read their backlist or I want to read their backlist. And the one non-Christian fiction author that I put on this was Mimi Matthews, which I know you have heard me talk about her before. And I've actually read most of hers, but I have a few. One is The Viscount and the Vicar's Daughter. And then A Convenient Fiction and The Winter Companion, which I believe are part of a series. And I've read one of the books in that series. And then Fair as a Star, which oddly I started, but then, I don't know, I think I just had some other stuff, other books going at the time. And like I read like a chapter and then just had to put it down and then never picked it back up for some reason. So I didn't get into that one. And that one I can get through the library. So I'm gonna read that one. And then I also put on this list, because I don't know when I will get to it, The Lily of Ludgate Hill, which was just released the other day. So definitely one that I would like to read. That one, I have a feeling it might be my favorite of her current series, if the little snippet sample at the back of the previous book in the series is any indication. Hello, Editing Anne here to say that I just tried to talk off the top of my head about another author that I want to read their backlist, and I should know better than to do that. So I actually looked up said author, was surprised by the books I had read and had not read by that author, and so now I have an accurate list to share with you. And that author is Kate Morton, who I discovered some years ago but have not kept up with all of her releases. And I don't think that I have read all of her older ones also. So this list is a mix of, I know one of them, Homecoming, is her release from last year that I did not read. And then The Clockmaker's Daughter is the release, I believe, that was before that. And then The Lake House and The Secret Keeper are older books. So those I want to read by Kate Morton. I have read the one that I have, which is The Forgotten Garden. And The House at Riverton, I think, is the name of one that I read by her. And then there was one more. So I've read almost half of her output. And so I have a little more to read by her. And I'm looking forward to finding those, getting my hands on them, and reading them. So there we go. And that was the end of the list of authors that I wanted to go through. So that's it. Those are the backlists that I want to get to, not this year necessarily, although I want to work on all of them this year, be reading from their backlists. And I'm going to try and keep up with their current reads. I'm going to start with their most recent reads that I haven't read. to begin with, and then fill in from the backlist as I have time. So let me know in the comments if there are any authors, current authors, that you have either read their entire backlist, or you're working on it, or you want to, or the writing is so good you don't want to miss anything that they've written. Who are those authors for you? And just let me know. I'm curious, and I will see you next time. Bye. Hello. Editing Anne here to say that I just tried to talk off the top of my head about another author that I want to read their backlist, and I should know better than to do that. So I actually looked up said author, was surprised by the books I had read and had not read by that author, and so now I have an accurate list to share with you. And that author is Kate Morton, who I discovered some years ago but have not kept up with all of her releases. And I don't think that I have read all of her older ones also. So this list is a mix of, I know one of them, Homecoming, is her release from last year that I did not read. And then The Clockmaker's Daughter is the release, I believe, that was before that. And then The Lake House and The Secret Keeper are older books. So those I want to read by Kate Morton. I have read the one that I have, which is The Forgotten Garden, and The House at Riverton, I think, is the name of one that I read by her. And then there was one more. So I've read almost half of her output. And so I have a little more to read by her, and I'm looking forward to finding those, getting my hands on them, and reading them. So there we go. And that was the end of the list of authors that I wanted to go through. So that's it. Those are the backlists that I want to get to, not this year necessarily, although I want to work on all of them this year, be reading from their backlists. And I'm going to try and keep up with their current reads. I'm going to start with their most recent reads that I haven't read to begin with, and then fill in from the backlist as I have time. So let me know in the comments if there are any authors, current authors, that you have either read their entire backlist, or you're working on it, or you want to, or the writing is so good you don't want to miss anything that they've written. Who are those authors for you? And just let me know. I'm curious, and I will see you next time. Bye.